Why avoidants always come back when you stop chasing. Have you ever noticed something strange? The moment you stop texting, the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop trying to convince someone to love you, that's often the exact moment they come back. Not because you played a game, not because you became someone else, but because you finally stopped feeding a cycle that was keeping both of you trapped. Here's the truth most people never hear. The more you chase an avoidant, the more they feel they need to run. The more you let go, the more they are forced to face the silence they were escaping. Today, you're going to discover why this happens, why your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was, and most importantly, how reclaiming your own life is the greatest source of power yourself. And because the goal was never to make someone chase you. The goal is to become someone who never has to chase anyone again. If you've been giving everything to someone who keeps pulling away, this message is for you. Many people believe that love is about trying harder. They believe if they send one more message, explain their feelings one more time, forgive one more excuse, or sacrifice one more piece of themselves, eventually the other person will realize what they have. But relationships don't work that way. When you constantly chase someone emotionally unavailable, you're teaching them one dangerous lesson, that you'll always be there, no matter how little effort they give. And human beings rarely value what they never have to risk losing. Avoidant people often struggle with emotional closeness. Intimacy can feel overwhelming. The moment someone moves closer, their instinct is to create distance. Not because they don't feel anything, but because closeness activates fears they haven't healed. Now imagine what happens when you chase. Every call, every paragraph, every emotional conversation, every attempt to fix things. To you, it's love. To them, it feels like pressure. Pressure creates resistance. Resistance creates distance, and the cycle repeats. Then one day, you stop. You stop begging. You stop checking their social media. You stop trying to rescue the relationship. You begin rescuing yourself. Something unexpected happens. For the first time, they experience what you've been feeling all along. Silence, uncertainty, loss. The emotional safety net disappears. Now they're left alone with their own thoughts. The space you created forces them to confront emotions they spent months avoiding. Sometimes that's exactly when they reach back out. But here's the lesson that changes everything. Their return isn't proof you should go back. Their return is proof that your value never disappeared. You simply stopped giving it away for free. Never mistake someone's renewed interest for permanent growth. People can miss your presence without changing their patterns. People can fear losing you without learning how to love you. And that's why your greatest responsibility isn't asking whether they came back. It's asking whether they came back different. Because your peace should never be exchanged for temporary attention. Real transformation starts the moment your happiness no longer depends on someone else's peace. Decision. When your mornings are filled with purpose instead of anxiety, when your confidence comes from your character instead of their messages, when your identity is built on your mission instead of their approval, you become emotionally free. Ironically, that's when people begin seeing your worth. Not because you became more valuable, because you finally believed you were. Confidence changes your energy. Self-respect changes your standards. Purpose changes your focus. And people notice what no longer revolves around them. The strongest person in any relationship isn't the one who controls. It's the one who can walk away from what no longer serves their future. Because strength isn't holding on forever. Strength is knowing when your love deserves a healthier home. The truth is this. Stop chasing. Start growing. Stop proving. Start becoming. Stop waiting. Start living. Your life was never meant to be paused while someone decides whether you're enough. You were always enough. Now it's time to build a life that reflects that truth. Think about a magnet for a moment. When you push two magnets together from the wrong side, they resist each other. The harder you push, the stronger the force pushing back becomes. Human emotions often work the same way. The harder you pursue someone who fears emotional closeness, the more their instinct is to create distance. It isn't always because they don't care. It's because pressure awakens the very fears they've spent years trying to avoid. Most people believe that if they simply love harder, communicate more, or prove their loyalty long enough, they can change someone's behavior. They convince themselves that another heartfelt message, another apology they didn't owe, another sacrifice, or another chance will finally make the relationship work. But love cannot grow where one person is constantly running and the other is constantly forward chasing. That isn't connection. That's a cycle. When you chase, your attention becomes completely focused on the other person's reactions. You begin measuring your worth by how quickly they reply, how often they call, or whether they seem interested today. Your emotional state starts depending on someone else's decisions. One good morning text makes you feel alive. One delayed response fills your mind with anxiety. You slowly surrender control of your happiness without even realizing it. The problem is that chasing unintentionally rewards emotional distance. Every time someone pulls away and you immediately run after them, you're sending a silent message. No matter how little effort you give, I'll do enough for both of us. Over time, that becomes the pattern. One person keeps withdrawing, the other keeps overgiving. One becomes comfortable receiving. The other becomes exhausted trying to earn what should have been freely given. Relationships thrive on mutual effort, not emotional imbalance. Healthy love allows both people to move toward each other. It creates space for vulnerability, trust, and respect. But chasing destroys that balance because it places one person in the position of constantly pursuing while the other holds all the emotional power. The more you chase, the more you forget yourself. You stop investing in your goals. You neglect friendships. You abandon hobbies that once brought you joy. Your world begins revolving around someone else's availability. Instead of asking whether the relationship is healthy, you spend your energy figuring out how to keep it alive. That's a dangerous place to live because your identity slowly disappears behind your desire to be chosen. Ironically, people often value what requires effort. When something is always available regardless of how it's treated, it becomes easy to take for granted. This doesn't mean love should be a game or that you should intentionally manipulate someone. It simply means healthy relationships require both people to invest. If only one person carries the emotional weight, the relationship eventually collapses under the imbalance. Someone with avoidant tendencies often experiences closeness differently. Deep emotional intimacy can trigger feelings of vulnerability they haven't learned to manage. So when they sense increasing emotional demands, their natural response may be to create distance. Every extra text asking for reassurance, every repeated attempt to fix things immediately, every emotional conversation after already pulled away can reinforce their instinct to escape rather than reconnect. That doesn't mean your needs are wrong. It means your strategy may be working against the outcome you desire. You cannot convince someone to feel safe by overwhelming them with more emotion than they can process. Emotional security grows through trust, consistency, and personal growth, not relentless pursuit. The strongest shift happens when you stop asking, how do I make them stay? And start asking, why am I chasing someone who keeps showing me they don't know how to meet me halfway? That single question changes everything. It moves your attention away from controlling another person's behavior and back toward your own standards, your own peace, and your own future. Real strength is not found in running after someone who keeps walking away. Real strength is found in standing firmly in your own value, refusing to abandon yourself, and understanding that love should never require you to sacrifice your dignity just to keep someone's attention. When you stop chasing, you don't lose your power. You finally reclaim it. Silence has a strange power. Most people underestimate it because they believe words solve everything. They think another explanation will create understanding. Another apology will repair the damage, or another conversation will finally produce the answer they've been waiting for. But there comes a point when words lose their impact. When someone has heard every explanation, every promise, every emotional plea, The only thing left that carries any weight is your absence. When you constantly remain available, there is no opportunity for someone to truly experience life without you. Your messages fill the empty spaces. Your attention becomes predictable. Your presence becomes expected rather than appreciated. Even if you are giving love with the purest intentions, your constant availability can unintentionally prevent the other person from recognizing your value. People often don't realize the importance of something until they are forced to imagine life without it. The moment you stop chasing, everything changes. The phone becomes quiet. The notifications disappear. The emotional safety net they unconsciously relied upon is no longer there. Suddenly, there is room for reflection. The silence that once belonged to you now belongs to them. For someone who tends to avoid emotional intimacy, distraction is often easier than reflection. They stay busy. They focus on work, hobbies, friends, or anything that keeps uncomfortable emotions buried beneath the surface. As long as someone else continues reaching out, apologizing, or trying to fix the relationship, they rarely have to face the deeper questions inside themselves. But when the pursuit ends, distractions begin to lose their effectiveness. The absence creates space for reality to settle in. They begin noticing the routines that included you. They notice the conversations that no longer happen. They remember the consistency they once overlooked. The comfort of knowing someone would always be there suddenly disappears. What they once took for granted now becomes something they have to live without. This isn't about making someone suffer. It isn't about punishment or emotional manipulation. It's about allowing natural consequences to exist. Every relationship carries emotional weight. When one person continually shields the other from feeling that weight by constantly reaching out, the relationship remains unbalanced. Once that shield is removed, reality finally has room to speak. Many people panic when they stop chasing because the silence feels uncomfortable. They mistake the absence of communication as proof that they never mattered. But silence doesn't always mean nothing is happening. Some of the deepest emotional processing happens when no words are being exchanged. Growth often begins in moments where there is nothing left to distract us from ourselves. During this period, something equally important is happening, not just for the other person, but for you. The energy that once went into overthinking every text message, replaying every conversation, and searching for hidden meanings begins returning to your own life. You start sleeping better. You laugh more. You reconnect with friends. You rediscover ambitions that had been placed on hold. Little by little, your identity starts rebuilding itself. Ironically, that transformation is often what becomes noticeable. People sense when someone is no longer emotionally dependent on them. They recognize the difference between someone waiting by the phone and someone fully engaged in their own purpose. Confidence has a quiet presence. It doesn't demand attention, yet it naturally attracts it. When someone who avoided closeness suddenly notices that your world no longer revolves around them, curiosity often replaces certainty. Questions begin to surface. Why aren't they reaching out anymore? Have they moved on? Did I lose someone who genuinely cared? Those thoughts cannot develop while you're out, constantly filling every silence with another attempt to reconnect. Reflection requires space, and space only exists when you stop trying to control every outcome. The greatest mistake people make is believing that silence is empty. Well, it isn't. Silence reveals what constant conversation often hides. It exposes priorities, habits, emotional maturity, and genuine intentions. It allows both people to see the relationship without the noise of desperation or pressure. In that quiet space, truths become impossible to ignore. Sometimes those truths inspire change. Sometimes they reveal that nothing has changed at all. Either way, the silence gives clarity that endless chasing never could. There is a quiet confidence that cannot be faked. It doesn't come from expensive clothes, impressive achievements, or the approval of other people. It comes from knowing your value even when someone else fails to recognize it. That kind of confidence changes the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and the way you respond to disappointment. It is the difference between someone who begs to be loved and someone who understands that love should never require them to abandon their self-respect. Desperation and confidence create completely different energies. Desperation says, "Please choose me, because I don't feel complete without you." Confidence says, "I care about you, but I will not lose myself trying to keep you." One gives away power. The other protects it. One is driven by fear of loss. The other is guided by respect for personal worth. When you don't fully believe in your own value, you begin accepting behaviors you once promised yourself you would never tolerate. You make excuses for inconsistency. You overlook broken promises. You justify emotional distance. You convince yourself that if you're patient enough or loving enough, things will eventually change. Instead of expecting mutual effort, you lower your standards little by little until you are asking for the bare minimum and calling it love. Self-respect refuses to negotiate with that pattern. It recognizes that kindness should not come at the expense of dignity. It understands that love without respect eventually becomes emotional exhaustion. You can be compassionate without becoming a doormat. You can be understanding without accepting repeated disappointment. Real strength is not measured by how much pain you can tolerate. It is measured by how clearly you recognize when something no longer aligns with your values. One of the most attractive qualities a person can possess is emotional stability. Someone who remains calm under pressure, who communicates honestly, who doesn't panic when challenges appear, creates an atmosphere of safety. They are not constantly seeking reassurance because their identity isn't built upon someone else's approval. They know who they are before entering a relationship, and they remain that person while they're in one. This is why confidence naturally attracts people. It doesn't chase attention. It doesn't demand validation. It simply exists. Imagine meeting two different individuals. One spends every conversation trying to convince you why they deserve your love. The other listens, speaks with authenticity, pursues meaningful goals, and enjoys their own life regardless of your opinion. Which person leaves a stronger impression? The answer is obvious. People are drawn toward those who already believe in themselves because confidence creates emotional security. Avoidant individuals often expect others to pursue them. They become accustomed to someone always reaching out first, always forgiving first, always making the effort to reconnect. When that pattern suddenly changes, they notice. Not because you've become cold or uncaring, but because you've begun respecting yourself enough to stop carrying the entire relationship alone. Healthy boundaries play an important role in this transformation. A boundary is not a punishment. It is not an attempt to control another person's behavior. A boundary is simply a decision about what you will and will not accept in your own life. It communicates that your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being have value. People who respect those boundaries often become healthier partners. People who repeatedly violate them reveal that they were benefiting more from your lack of boundaries than from your love. Confidence also changes the conversations you have with yourself. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" you begin asking, "Is this relationship bringing out the best in me?" Instead of wondering why someone keeps pulling away, you begin wondering why you keep chasing someone who refuses to meet you halfway. Those questions shift your focus from earning someone else's affection to protecting your own peace. As your confidence grows, so does your ability to walk away from situations that no longer serve you. You stop confusing attention with commitment. You stop mistaking temporary affection for lasting change. You realize that someone can be interested in you without being capable of building a healthy relationship with you. That awareness protects your heart far more than endless hope ever could. People often believe confidence means never feeling hurt, never experiencing rejection, or never questioning yourself. The truth is very different. Confidence is feeling the disappointment, acknowledging the pain, and still refusing to settle for less than the respect, honesty, and consistency you deserve. It is choosing your own worth every single day, even when someone else fails to choose it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that someone's return automatically means they've changed. When an avoidant comes back after weeks or months of silence, emotions can take over. Your heart starts racing. Hope returns. You begin imagining all the conversations you've waited to have, all the memories you'll create, and all the pain that might finally disappear. But before you open the same door again, you have to ask one question that has the power to protect your future. Has this person actually changed? Or have they simply come back because they miss what they lost? Those are two completely different things. Missing someone is an emotion. Change is a decision. Missing someone can happen overnight. Real change often takes months, sometimes years, because it requires self-awareness, accountability, and consistent effort. It's easy to feel lonely. It's much harder to confront the habits, fears, and emotional patterns that created the distance in the first place. Many people return because they miss familiarity. Human beings naturally seek comfort. Even relationships that were unhealthy can feel familiar, and familiarity often feels safer than starting over. When life becomes stressful, when loneliness appears, or when other relationships don't work out, it's easy to think about the person who always cared, always forgave, and was always willing to give another chance. But returning because someone misses your presence is not the same as returning because theirs become capable of loving you differently. This is why you must stop listening only to words. Words are easy. Promises are easy. Apologies are easy. Anyone can say I've changed. Anyone can promise things will be different this time. Anyone can tell you exactly what you want to hear, but words don't build trust. Behavior does. Consistency does. Time does. Real growth isn't revealed during emotional conversations. It's revealed during ordinary days. It's revealed when disagreements happen, when stress appears, when misunderstandings arise, and when life becomes uncomfortable. Anyone can behave well for a week. Lasting change is demonstrated when healthy behavior continues long after the excitement of reconnecting has faded. Pay close attention to patterns instead of moments. A single thoughtful message is a moment. A month of consistent communication is a pattern. One sincere apology is a moment. Taking responsibility without becoming defensive every single time is a pattern. Buying flowers is a moment. Showing respect, honesty, and emotional availability day after day is a pattern. Your future is built on patterns, not isolated moments. Another danger is allowing nostalgia to rewrite history. The human mind has a tendency to remember the highlights while minimizing the pain. You remember the laughter, the vacations, the chemistry, the dreams you shared, but you conveniently forget the sleepless nights, the unanswered messages, the emotional confusion, and the constant feeling that you had to earn basic affection. Nostalgia edits reality. Wisdom remembers the entire story. This is why emotional discipline is so important. Don't allow excitement to make decisions that wisdom should make. Give yourself permission to slow down. Observe instead of rushing. Watch instead of assuming. Let time reveal whether this person has truly become someone capable of building the relationship you always hoped for. A person who has genuinely grown doesn't become defensive when accountability enters the conversation. They don't blame you for everything that happened. They don't expect instant forgiveness simply because they came back. Instead, they acknowledge the hurt they caused. They accept responsibility without excuses. They understand that rebuilding trust is a privilege, not a guarantee. Most importantly, they recognize that your boundaries are not obstacles. They are evidence that you're blunt. Learn to value yourself. Growth also reveals itself through emotional maturity. Instead of disappearing when conversations become difficult, they stay. Instead of shutting down when conflict arises, they communicate. Instead of expecting you to carry the emotional weight of the relationship, they begin sharing that responsibility with you. Their actions create peace rather than confusion. Their consistency replaces anxiety with security. Remember this truth whenever someone returns to your life. Your responsibility is not to reward someone's arrival. Your responsibility is to protect the peace you've worked so hard to build. Never let the excitement of getting someone back become more important than the standards you first developed while healing without them. If their return brings the same confusion, the same inconsistency, and the same emotional exhaustion, then nothing meaningful has changed. Only the distance between you has. The greatest transformation in your life begins the day you stop making someone else the center of your world. For so long, your energy may have been invested in wondering whether they would text you back, whether they still cared, whether they would finally choose you. Every decision, every emotion, every hope became connected to another person's actions. Without realizing it, you handed them the keys to your peace. But there comes a moment when you recognize that your life was never meant to be controlled by someone else's uncertainty. The ultimate victory is not hearing your phone ring with their name on the screen. It is waking up one morning and realizing that whether they call or not no longer determines your happiness. That is freedom. That is emotional strength. That is the moment you stop surviving and start living again. Too many people spend years chasing relationships while neglecting themselves. They postpone their dreams because they're waiting for someone to commit. They stop pursuing new opportunities because they're afraid of being unavailable if that person suddenly comes back. They delay their healing because they're sown. We're still hoping the relationship will somehow return to what it once was. But life doesn't wait for anyone. Every day spent chasing someone who isn't meeting you halfway is a day you could have invested in becoming the person you were created to be. Imagine the energy you've spent replaying old conversations in your mind. Think about the countless hours you've analyzed text messages, searched for hidden meanings, and questioned your own worth because someone else couldn't offer consistency. Now imagine redirecting that same energy toward building your future. Imagine putting that effort into your career, your health, your education, your family, your friendships, and your purpose. The life you've been searching for doesn't begin when someone finally chooses you. It begins when you choose yourself. Choosing yourself doesn't mean becoming selfish. It doesn't mean closing your heart or refusing to love again. It means recognizing that your identity is bigger than any relationship. It means understanding that love should add to your life, not become your entire life. Healthy relationships are built between two complete individuals, not between one person searching for validation and another deciding whether to provide it. When you stop chasing, something remarkable happens. You begin discovering parts of yourself that were buried beneath fear and insecurity. You remember what makes you laugh. You reconnect with passions you abandoned. You challenge yourself in ways you never thought possible. Your confidence grows because it is no longer dependent on someone else's approval. Instead, it comes from the promises you keep to yourself. Every small decision matters. Waking up early to work on your goals. Going to the gym when you don't feel motivated. Learning a new skill. Reading books that strengthen your mind. Spending time with people who genuinely appreciate you. Each action sends a message to yourself that your future is worth investing in. Confidence is not built overnight. It is built every time you choose discipline over distraction and growth over regret. Ironically, this is often when people notice you the most, not because you changed your appearance or learned some secret technique to attract attention, but because your energy is different. You no longer carry the desperation that comes from needing someone to complete you. You carry peace. You carry purpose. You carry certainty. And those qualities naturally draw respect because they cannot be manufactured. They are earned through experience and personal growth. There is also a powerful shift in your standards. You stop asking, how can I make this person stay? Instead, you begin asking, does this person deserve access to the life I'm building? That single question changes everything. It reminds you that relationships are not auditions where you prove your worth. They are partnerships where both people contribute, support, and grow together. You become less interested in temporary attention and more interested in lasting character. You stop chasing chemistry while ignoring compatibility. You stop confusing mixed signals with mystery. You stop believing that inconsistency is exciting. Instead, you begin appreciating honesty, emotional maturity, reliability, and peace. What once felt boring now feels safe. What once felt thrilling now looks like emotional chaos. Your perspective changes because you've changed. The strongest person is never the one who convinces everyone to stay. The strongest person is the one who knows they will be okay even if someone leaves. That kind of strength cannot be taken away because it doesn't depend on another person's passion. It is built from self-respect, resilience, and the belief that your value has never been determined by who walked away from you. Once you reach that place, you no longer chase love. You attract relationships that reflect the respect, confidence, and purpose you've built within yourself. As we come to the end of this message, remember this one truth that has the power to change your life forever. You cannot force someone to choose you. You cannot love someone into becoming emotionally available. You cannot sacrifice enough pieces of yourself to earn the kind of love that should be given freely. The moment you stop chasing isn't the moment you lose. It's the moment you stop losing yourself. If someone is meant to walk beside you, they won't require you to beg for their attention, question your worth every day, or constantly fight for a place in their life. Real love doesn't thrive on confusion. It grows through trust, consistency, respect, and mutual effort. So, stop measuring your value by who stays and who leaves. Measure it by the person you become through every challenge. Become stronger than your fears. Become wiser than your emotions. Become more committed to your purpose than your pain. Because the greatest revenge is not making someone regret losing you. The greatest victory is building a life so meaningful that you no longer need anyone's validation to feel complete. And if they come back, don't ask, do they still love me? Ask, have they become the kind of person who can protect my peace instead of stealing it? Never lower your standards just because someone returned. Raise your standards because you finally understand your worth. Remember, your future is too valuable to be placed in the hands of someone who is unsure about your place in their life. Walk forward with confidence. Protect your peace. Guard your heart. Keep growing. Keep believing. And never chase what is meant to walk beside you. Because the right people will never require you to abandon yourself just to keep them. Your story isn't ending here. This is where your strongest chapter begins. If this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs the reminder that they are enough, exactly as they are. If you found value in today's message, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss future content designed to help you build confidence, emotional strength, and a powerful mindset. Leave a comment below and tell me, what was the biggest lesson you learned today? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and your story might be the encouragement someone else needs. Thank you for spending these moments investing in yourself. Never stop growing. Never stop believing in your value. And remember, the strongest person in the room is never the one who chases. It's the one who knows their worth, protects their peace, and keeps moving forward with purpose. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay strong, and keep becoming the best version of you. Thank you for watching.